This video is for people who want to be able to have conversations in French. And to have conversations, you need to find the right words at the right time. So here, you'll learn to convert typical English sentences into typical French sentences with the past tense that we call the imparfait. So first, I'm going to explain quickly how to form the imparfait in French. And then we're going to do a speed training with the imparfait so that you get the ability to reply on the moment and you manage to avoid traps. So if you know the imparfait already, you can go directly to the speed training. Now, basically, with most verbs, you form the imparfait in French by replacing the ending of the verb by the sound et. It's the sound et that you write ai. And you also have a silent ending when you write it. But here we focus on spoken French. So we focus on how it sounds, not on how you spell it. For instance, to give in French is to donate. So donner. That's an ER verb, the most common verbs. So the infinitive form or the to form sounds et already, but with the ER. So when you conjugate donner in the imparfait, you replace the ER by AI. So you replace the sound et by the sound et. So it doesn't change how it sounds. It still sounds donner. So how do you say I gave with the imparfait? Je donnais. That you're more likely to hear je donnais in France. Now the verb for to work in French relates to travel. To work is travailler. So how do you say I worked with the imparfait? Je travaillais. Or je travaillais. To say we in spoken French, we say on. On. So in this video, every time I say we, you have to say on. So how do you say we worked with the imparfait? On travaillait. The verb to be in French is être. With the imparfait, it's était. So how do you say we were with the imparfait? On était. So don't forget to pronounce the N of on when the following word starts with a vowel. Here, the E of été. So, on était. But now, the main trap with the imparfait is that in English, you're likely to be willing to say, for instance, I was working. But I was working does not exist in French. You have to use the imparfait with the verb to work only. To say I was working, you first need to transform the I was working into I worked in English, and then translate I worked with the imparfait in French. So how do you say I was working? Je travaillais. So there is no verb to be. You only use the verb travailler in French. And we are going to practice that with a speed training. that you can find in my whole spoken French course, and that you can also do now. So now that you know how to say I was in French, you're likely to make a mistake. When you want to say I was working, for instance, or I was giving, you may use the verb to be in French to say that, whereas you should not. So we're going to make a speed training so that you don't make that mistake. It's going to be perfectly clear right now. So for instance, how do you say I was? J'étais. J'étais. How do you say we were? On était. On était. Don't forget to pronounce the N of on when the following word starts with a vowel. On était. How do you say the verb for to give in French? To give or to donate? Donner. So now, how do you say we were giving? On donnait. So we were giving. You use the imparfait of the verb to give in French. So you say donner, just donner. On donnait. And there's no verb to be at the imparfait in I was giving, because you only keep the idea of giving in French. We were giving is on donnait. And I know that you may be tempted to use the verb to be in French when you hear you were giving. But again, really focus on the idea. Here, that's the idea of giving, so that's the verb donner that you conjugate at the imparfait. So, on donnait for we were giving. But now, how do you say you were not with the informal you? You informal were not. Tu étais pas. Tu étais pas. So here we only have the verb to be. So that's the idea of to be that we want. So you say tu étais pas. You use the verb to be at the imparfait. Était. Tu étais pas. So in this session, we're only going to use tu for you. So every time I say you here, it's for the informal you. So tu. So now how do you say you were not working? Tu travaillais pas. So in you were not working, what counts here is the verb to work. That's the idea of working that you want to express. So you were working, tu travaillais, and you turn it into a negative statement. So you say you were not working. So you place the pas just after the verb. So tu travaillais pas. There's no verb to be here in you were not working in French, because we are expressing the idea of working. Tu travaillais pas. So as always, focus on the idea that you want to express. So how do you say they men were giving? Ils donnaient. Ils donnaient. So you only have the verb to give in French. Donner at the imparfait. Ils donnaient. How do you say were they men giving? Ils donnaient. Ils donnaient. So just they men were giving with an interrogation tone. Ils donnaient. But then, how do you say were they? when they represents men. Just were they? Ils étaient. Ils étaient. So here we only have the verb to be, so you have to say to be in French at the imparfait. Ils étaient. Okay, so now that you get it, let's do our first session. So get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say he was? Il était. I was not working. Je travaillais pas. I was. J'étais. Were they men working? Were they men working? Ils travaillaient. Ils travaillaient. You were. Tu étais. Were we? On était. I was giving. Je donnais. We were not giving. On donnait pas. Was she? Elle était. They women were not working. Elle travaillait pas. You were giving. Tu donnais. And that's it. So we're going to do another series and adding some words. For instance, there. So là. How do you say I was there? J'étais là. So here we only have the verb to be. There's no other verb. So you say the verb to be. J'étais à dit imparfait. J'étais là. I was there. And now how do you say why were you giving? With the informal you. Why were you giving? Pourquoi tu donnais? So why and you were giving at the imparfait. Here we have the verb giving. We were giving, so we express the idea of giving, so we only say the verb donner, not the verb to be. So why you were giving? Pourquoi tu donnais? So it's not a full sentence, but that's a way of practicing you were versus you were giving. And here we keep the singular informal you. So every time I say you here, you say tu. So pourquoi tu donnais? And now let's ask a question with where. Where was she working? With the question word at the beginning. So où est-ce que or où est-ce que? Where was she working? Où est-ce qu'elle travaillait? Où est-ce qu'elle travaillait? So now that you get it, let's do our next session. Get ready. 3, 2, 1. How do you say "They men were there"? Ils étaient là. Why was he giving? Pourquoi il donnait? I was not giving. Je donnais pas. Where was she working? Où est-ce qu'elle travaillait? Where were you working? Où est-ce que tu travaillais? We were not there. On n'était pas là. Why were the women giving? Pourquoi elles donnaient? I was not there. J'étais pas là. You were there. Tu étais là. Where was she working? Où est-ce qu'elle travaillait? And that's it. So that was a video from my spoken French course. You see, most methods don't allow you to practice your French speaking because they are mainly writing methods. So they don't train you to reply on the moment. Whereas if you want to speak French, you need to practice your French speaking continuously in a smart way, as we just did, so you get the right reflexes. And that's why I created this course, focused on spoken French. I teach you all the grammar points that you need by explaining and asking you to make sentences in French. And we regularly practice with speed trainings, so you get used to reply in French on the moment. With that method, you can have day-to-day conversations in French in 3 months. So if you're between beginner and A2 level, and you'd like to express yourself in spoken French, make French sentences, find new words without hesitation, and remember what you learn, but without cramming, just by practicing. You can join my complete course, Spoken French Now, with the link below. It's a complete video series, plus 2 lessons with me on one-on-one, so I take only 10 students. And there's a 45% discount until this Sunday. So if you really want to speak French, just click on the link below and I see you there.